ocean of imagination. It is an area which we call the Twilight Zone.
I got love for you, no lie. I give my best, I try. Someday we'll touch the sky. You're an angel, little baby. Wipe all your tears away. I know it's been crazy, but keep your head up high.
Foot chase through the projects, dodging foreign objects. Street knowledge, I should've went to college. Odds stacked against me, surviving off instinct. 3 blocks from the precinct. Lil' homie caught a case, others lost family members. Product of his environment, projects produce violence in the middle of the streets, cause that's how we eat. Just a rap about the trap don't mean I ain't about peace.
We must stand together, all together.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. I am Tamara Felton Howard. I am going to host this session, but I'm also a part of the panel, so that's why I'm sitting down right now. But we are here for what to do with Big Mama's house is the topic. This is our second year participating here at the Realist session. So we are so happy here. I'd like to introduce 2 other folks who are joining me, 2 other attorneys. To my immediate right is Rachel, to immediate left is Rachel Stanger. She is the executive director of the community law program. And Patrick Quarles, he is a partner with the law firm of Richard and Quarles, PA in Clearwater.
Yep.
In Clearwater. And this is his second year joining us, and it's the second year also that the community law program has participated. So we're going to jump right in, have a panel discussion. And the first question that I want to pose to our panel are some of the reasons that you would, through wills, trust, et cetera, how did you even get to being on title for Big Mama's house?
I'll start with that one. Pardon me. Well, no, we haven't. I think you're getting me here, right?
Live, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Sure. One of the most common ways is through what's called intestacy, where when someone passes away and they do not have a will, the property descends under Article 10, Section 4 of the Florida Constitution. It immediately vests title in the heirs of the decedent. The statute defines how we figure out who the heirs are. Usually it's spouse, children, then it goes back up to parents, brothers, sisters, cousins. That's probably the most common way because not everyone has a will, or some of the other ways that we use to pass property at death. Pardon me. The second way is if you have a will and you say who's going to inherit the property, a lot of times that will pretty closely track the intestacy statute. So you're giving it to your spouse and your kids, maybe in some specific shares or just to your spouse. That's probably the second most common way. The rest, I don't see them super frequently, and part of the reason for that is you don't need an attorney to help you with those. If you have what's called a life estate or an enhanced life estate, the second one we refer to as a ladybird deed, all you have to do is record a death certificate, and the remaindermen under that life estate own the property. Patrick can't find a way to charge a fee for that, which is great for people. I want people to have an easy time and not worry about, how I'm going to pay my bills. A trust, usually you would want to have an attorney involved, but it's not strictly required. There's a bunch of accountings and notices that need to be done. But if everyone can be cool with each other, sometimes an attorney won't even need to get involved. The trustee can deed the property out to whomever the trust says. That I wouldn't recommend doing it on your own, just because there are some deadlines that if you blow through those and you don't make the appropriate disclosures and a beneficiary gets upset later, you may have left the door open for them to try to come and claw back something they feel that they should have had. There are a couple of other ways. If two people own property as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, or if they're married, we call that tenants by the entireties. Then when one person passes away, their interest just evaporates, and it leaves it with usually the other spouse or the other person who is added as a joint tenant with rights of survivorship. And there are some various benefits to that that will affect your homestead stuff. And when I say homestead stuff in Florida, I think everyone up here would agree that that's probably about 15 different things. Tax-wise, protection from sale of creditors, save our homes cap, the ability to get homeowners insurance. There's a bunch of stuff that relates to. Those are probably the most common ways. You guys have any ways that I didn't think of or mention?
Well, I think you covered a lot. I do want to go back and give a disclaimer. Although we are all attorneys, the information given does not in any manner constitute an attorney-client relationship. So we want to make sure that although we're providing information, it's not intended as legal advice or as a substitute for the specific advice of your own counsel. And the reason that we say that is every case is different. You may come in or think you need a will, think you need a trust, think you need an enhanced life deed, but until we really talk to you about who you are, who your heirs are, what assets you own, et cetera, it's hard to really make a determination as to what should apply in your particular situation. I certainly agree with Patrick, in terms of the ways that you inherit property. I mean, I would just really emphasize that everyone really should have a will, if you can, and we have a community law program. It's maybe not in my best interest, because I do wills as well, but they do them for free. So if you live in the CRA and you need a will, they are able to do that for you. If you don't qualify or don't want to go to the community law program, certainly give me or Patrick a call.
Yeah.
But what I'd like to say too is that wills are important because very often you end up with people on title that maybe you didn't intend to be on title, or maybe like I've had 15, 16, 20 people on title because the person died without a will, and maybe they had, several children, they had grandchildren, other decedents that got on the property and on the title. And one thing that happens is if you actually are on the title, your judgments could attach as well. And so sometimes it's just a big mess, big old mess. So a will is important. So the big question this morning is, what do you do with Big Mama's house? So you have Big Mama's house, and then there's a debate very often. Everybody says, don't sell Big Mama's house, keep it, or sell Big Mama's house. So I want to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of keeping Big Mama's house or selling it. So I'm gonna let Patrick. I want to take all the thunder.
This is one, and what she was saying about having a bunch of people on title, that's one of the biggest benefits to a will. It gives you control over who may be able to get what. And of the second part, we call those a last will and testament. And I tell my clients, you can say whatever you want in a will. If you're a person who likes to have the last word, this is the ultimate last word. So if you want to say, and I give nothing to Jeremy from middle school because he knows what he did, he'll never have an opportunity to respond. I've done a few of those. What to do with the house is an incredibly personal choice. And I think that's something that you'll get much more detail later on about investing in property. If you intend to live in the home, then yes, it's obviously you don't want to sell it and try to rent it back from someone. I think in the United States, your home is oftentimes a family primary asset. It's one of the reasons that we work of equity growth. You have more or less locked in your housing costs, so it gives you a very big amount of predictability. You don't have to worry about your rent going up or anything like that. However, sometimes it's not realistic for people to be able to afford carrying costs. When I say carrying costs, that's what you have to pay to maintain an asset. You have to pay homeowners insurance. If you're prudent, you don't have to if there's no mortgage. If you have a mortgage, you've got to pay the mortgage, your property taxes, and some of this stuff is incredibly, it is very heavily determined based on the use of the property. If you inherit property with 16 other heirs and they're like, yeah, it's fine, you can live there, that's great, but hold on, I'm pretty good at fractions. 1/15 of that home would qualify, I'm sorry, 1/16 of that home would qualify for the homestead exemption, would qualify for the Save Our Homes cap, and the other 15/16 of that is going to be reevaluated every year because the other beneficial owners own it as what's called tenants in common if you have made no adjustments. When property descends pursuant to the intestacy statute or according to a will, unless you say, I want them to own this as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, it descends as tenants in common, which means that the property taxes are going to go up a lot every year. The homestead exemption against sale by forced sale by creditor, that's something that Florida will generally give you. It can't be a little bit homestead. So if one person can say, hey, you can't force me to sell this, the court won't be able to force the sale. That doesn't mean that a lien wouldn't attach. And when the house ultimately does sell, one of the heirs who has a lien, a judgment against them, may have to pay their share, which could disincentivize them to agreeing to sell the property. And you end up in a much worse situation if everyone doesn't agree to pay the carrying costs. And that, can we pay the carrying costs? Should one person buy everyone else out? At what price? These are all questions that you have to ask, preferably before someone passes away, so that we can make that will. We can name the remainderment, and keep in mind in that will, it's the same thing. I'm not leaving anything to, my third son, and he is familiar for the reasons why. That's one of the most polite ways that we put things in those wills. If you're intending to sell it, it's important to note that I'm sure you guys see a lot of videos on TikTok and whatnot that say you've got to use a trust to avoid you get a step up in basis to avoid capital gains taxes. That's kind of right. A trust can help you with that. A property that passes at death gets a step up in basis. This is one of the ways that a lot of people avoid paying any capital gains tax. So don't think just because you inherited this property without a will, or you used a life estate or whatever it was, that you're going to end up getting hammered on capital gains taxes. You should always talk to an attorney, an accountant. I probably know just enough about taxes to get myself in a great deal of trouble. So I will often bring in a CPA or someone when we have that, as times are not going to be a big issue if you recently inherited. Sometimes that's a great grandparent passed away and probate was just never done. It was the family home. We all just knew this is how, by the time someone like me gets involved, we're going to have to do 4 or 5 probates. It's going to cost a lot of money to sort that out. And if the interests are small enough and fractured, it's really hard to get anyone to agree to anything. At which point potentially a partition of heirs property might be a way to go. That process is, we've recently, I want to say in 2021, they revamped the statute so that a partition of property used to be, hey, we're going to go to auction. Whoever buys it, you get it. And we all know that auction is never going to bring the type of proceeds that a fair market sale would. So now there's a way that you get in the court appoints an appraiser, they appoint a real estate agent, and you're more likely to get everyone what they're entitled to. So what to do with it, that's incredibly personal. You should speak to someone who invests in real property, which I believe we're going to hear from a little bit later on. Yeah, but you should definitely talk through it with your family and the professionals. I do free consultations. I don't know if you do free consultations, but I love to help people just figure out what's going on.
Well, on that note too, community law program does free consultations as well, and sometimes it's Patrick.
Sometimes it's me.
And just to pitch our program a little bit too, with the city of St. Pete has recognized that within the CRA, the South Side Community Redevelopment Area, there are over 350 homes that are owned by estates, meaning that the title holder passed and they're just sitting there. And when you don't have title to, and Big Mama didn't leave to anyone, and she just passed without a will, you can't qualify for necessarily FEMA benefits if it's affected by a storm. You can't take a permit out to fix your roof. You cannot get repairs on it if you don't have titles. Like there's a lot of issues. You can't get homestead. You can't get insurance on the property to protect it. And there are a lot, and also you can't evict your cousin Albert who's been living there because no one alive can sign the paperwork. He can just live there. And so there's a lot of problems because dead people can't sign things. And so it's really important that we help these houses move forward on one way or the other. The goal with our program, the goal of the city is to keep them in the family as much as possible rather than just selling them. Sometimes the only solution is to sell them because there are 26 heirs who all have a collective $2,000 and not one of them can afford to buy out everyone else. And so we are here to do that for you as a community law program. We've got a lot of cases going on. We want even more. It's our goal to get all those through. And we also added it, like you mentioned before, we also are doing estate and capacity planning documents for everyone in the CRA as well. Our income limit is super high, thanks to the city on that. So please call us in for a consultation on that and tell your neighbors as well. But I will say, I come from the background of family law, so I deal a lot with, in going to probate's a big learning experience. But in family law, we always say never own a house with someone you're not married to because it's very hard to get rid of it. To sell it, you have to go to the court to ask for a partition, and that costs money. And that's money you're not going to get on the tail end. And it breaks up relationships. And so the same goes for, boyfriend, girlfriend, parents, co-parents who own houses together who aren't legally married. It's very difficult to get the other person out when what happens. And you have to get their consent to do anything. And not just that too, if you own a house with 18 of your cousins, who you are all, depending on how the title is, you're all equally liable for everything that goes against it. You're equally liable for the taxes, for the utilities, for any of the expenses that come about it. When codes comes and cites you because no one's lived there in decades and the grass is out of control and everyone's complaining about it, every single one of you every single heir is going to be responsible for that, not just the one living there. And so it's a big problem. That's a discussion that really want to try to prevent on the front end, but we're here to help you with on the tail end as well. So again, like Patrick said, it's very personal what you want to do, but it's something that everyone needs to discuss and be prepared to deal with because it's very complicated in the tail end. Even if everyone knows too that it's supposed to go to Aunt Tracy, unless it's in writing, that's not how it's going to work out because there's someone that wants to get their $2,000 out of the house at the tail end. And there's also an issue to be seen as well. A lot of these cases, like Patrick mentioned, go through it just state like the proceedings that don't have the will. There's summary administrations where you don't have personal representatives, but when they have to go through more formal administrative proceeding, there's personal representatives. So whoever files first can get those fees from on top of everyone else's assets. So long as they're not a felon and they qualify otherwise, because that's also a problem. There may not be anyone in the family that doesn't have some kind of disqualifying factor. But if you want your fair share too, that you're supposed to get, it's something you should prepare for at the beginning.
Yeah. So I don't want to go over like what they've already discussed because all of it is true. I just want to kind of break some stuff down. So partition actions can be filed by any one tenant in common. So a lot of people, you're right, it does break up relationships. We do a lot of partition actions, and I've seen families like now, like I'm never talking to that person again because somebody wanted to keep the house. Somebody wanted, like, I don't even live in St. Pete. I want to get the money out. It happens so often. And so, but you do have to realize that it only takes one person to file a partition action. It's not like the majority has to agree. So they would have to be bought out or the house is sold if there's an inability to buy them out. In terms of, your taxes, a lot of people don't realize that when the decedent passes away, the person passes away, your taxes, especially in our environment where real estate is increased so substantially in St. Petersburg, your taxes are going to shoot up. Like they may have been a widower, an elderly person, they might have not have been paying any taxes, and now your tax is going to go up to $4,000 a year or $5,000 a year. I've seen it because our home prices have increased so substantially, and they may have bought the house in 1975, and now it's 2025, and the house is worth 4 times what it was worth before. So those are some things to think about. And also with time, when I get a lot of folks that have a home that belong to a grandparent or great grandparent, and they just think of it as the family house. But over time, if you don't probate and you don't change title to the beneficiaries, then you're going to have, when you finally do 10 years later, 15 years later, it's a mess because you've had people that have passed away. And like Patrick said, you may have to open up 3-4 estates for those people. And so if they didn't have a will. So it just gets to be really, really messy. So I have some other questions that I can present, but I do want to take a moment to pause. Does anyone have any questions based on what has already been discussed?
I just came in. Did you talk about Lady Bird?
Not yet.
Okay.
I don't think we really mentioned Lady Bird. Yeah. So I'll address that. We do a lot of Lady Bird deeds. Another name for it is an enhanced life deed. It's very useful, and Florida is only one of a handful of states that actually allow you to do a ladybird deed. So what a ladybird deed is, it is a deed that allows you to my husband and then my children, who are called the remainder men. And so typically it would be, myself, my husband, for our lives, and then to our children as joint tenants with rights of survivorship or tenants in common, however you'd like to do it. But what it does is it allows you to avoid probate, because another common misperception is that wills somehow allow you to avoid probate. They do not. Wills are just instructions. You're just instructing, your beneficiaries, the court, whoever, that this is who I want, my assets to go to, and this is the person that I want to serve as personal representative or whatever. But it doesn't avoid probate in most instances. So the enhanced life deed deals with your real estate and allows you to make that transfer upon death. And so when you pass away, if I passed away, if I was the surviving spouse and I passed away, then my children could take a death certificate, file it with the clerk of court, and the home would automatically be transferred to them without the need for probate. So that's a tool that we use very often, especially because a lot of people, their main asset might be their home. They might have bank accounts or some sort of life insurance and a car, and then their personal property within their home. So, if that's all you own, and you don't have any capacity planning issues, or you're not trying to be creative, like, oh, I have grandkids, I want to leave, 5% to my granddaughter and 5% to my grandson or whatever, where a trust might be the better way to go for stuff like that. If you have a house, you can do an enhanced life deed. Your bank accounts, you can leave beneficiaries, tell the bank, these are my beneficiaries, and they automatically transfers. You can, your life insurance, you can do the same thing. So that might be a way to go depending on your situation.
And I'll give a word of warning. We've seen scams out there. People who are not attorneys that say, come get this $100, whatever it may be, and they don't work. They're ladybird deeds or life enhancement deeds that aren't correct, or wills that are not correct because they're not done in the formal way, or some kind of just misunderstanding on that. So please don't fall for the scams. If it seems shady or too good to be true, it might be. Just have an attorney review, because again, it's pretty cheap to do. I feel like we do it for free, but people do it for cheap as well. So don't get caught into the scam of it. And also say a word of warning on that. With remainder man interest, it may not be for everyone. I know of a situation where a husband and wife never got actually divorced, but their child hated dad, and mom died, and so dad was left, and child was going to had a remainder man interest on the deed. and their neighbor bought the remainder interest in the house for $10,000 from the son, because he was like, great, screw over my dad. So when dad died, his girlfriend, they want to leave everything to, got nothing and got evicted immediately because the neighbor bought that house for super cheap. So again, these are things you need to think about when you're doing your deeds and life estates. You can change a will as much as you want until you die. And once you die, it's forever. So don't worry that you need to figure it all out right now, because things change. Yeah.
So what's the purpose of a will if the will doesn't affect the house and deeds?
It does.
I can speak to that in just a moment. I'm going to finish up with a couple of things I want to add to the enhanced life estate deed. The two things that I want to add to that are, it does a couple of interesting tax things and Medicaid things. So paying for nursing homes is something that I know people are often very concerned about. An enhanced life estate deed is the first. Medicaid planning was the first reason that I did that. The interesting thing that it does is it introduces uncertainty into the equation. And when you introduce this uncertainty because of the language in an enhanced life estate, which says that the life tenant has no liability for waste, they can give the property back to themselves, they can sell it, keep all the money, the remaindermen have no vested interest. Because of that uncertainty, it is not a gift for IRS tax purposes. If you just do a regular life estate deed, there is I feel like it goes to 3 to 4 different tables in the Internal Revenue Code on how you calculate the value of a remainder interest. But as soon as you say, but if I don't own it when I die because I may sell it and keep all the money, the IRS says it's not a complete gift. There's no taxable interest that's being transferred. And that same thing happens for Medicaid purposes. So if a family member, grandma does a life estate deed and says, well, I want my kids to have the house, and she needs to go into a nursing facility within the next 5 years, that the value of that life estate is going to be considered a disqualifying gift. They're going to figure out how much it's worth, divide that by 10,438, and she will not qualify for Medicaid benefits paying for her nursing care for that many months. So a Lady Bird deed or an enhanced life estate deed is very, very useful for those specific purposes. But also keeping in mind when it comes to when you have a major life change, a divorce, a new marriage, you should talk to an attorney about what to do with that.
Yeah, because there's some pros and cons to I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but there's some pros and cons to an enhanced life deed. Like, even though I found, our deed says that you can make changes, because the benefit is the flexibility. Like, you can change that deed and change the remainderment as well, which could be a pro or con depending on your situation. So that's why it's just important to talk to an attorney to flesh out all the purposes of the enhanced life deed. But I think there was a question about what is the purpose of a will. Did you want to address that?
Sure, yeah. The will makes known what you want to, its 2 primary things are who you want to wrap up your entire life's accumulation of stuff. It appoints your personal representative. That's the person who steps into your shoes and says, hey, I need to go to this bank and find out how much was in this account. I need all of the statements. Once those letters of the will is admitted to probate and the letters of administration are issued, the bank has to treat that person like they are you. So when you say, I need these account state, one of the few points when they can't say, no, I'm not going to give you that. You're standing in the decedent's shoes, you're allowed to have that thing. What it does is it disposes of your property. And this is where you say person or that person to have my home or my car or in my baseball card, whatever it is. You put that into your will. The thing about a will, I think, like that it has to be probated. The way that I see it is sometimes the person you want overseeing your estate is a judge. They get a lot of reverence when the judge makes a decision. Sometimes heirs may not like it, but judges are who we as a society have agreed will settle these types of disputes. So sometimes that's exactly the person you want making a decision, especially if you have minor children that may be involved or someone who you know is going to be contentious, having that you are already in the forum to settle these potential issues may be exactly where you want to be. But what she said is correct. A will does not avoid probate. In fact, you have to go to probate in order to have the judge say, yes, this will, it's properly executed. It appears that the person had testamentary capacity. We are going to admit this will to probate and appoint the person named as personal representative therein as the personal representative. So you get the judge's opinion. Maybe that's what we want. We want to say, hey, I've got this purported will. I'm going to go deposit it. It's not forever. It's for 20 years. I have tried to go get documents that were 20 years and 2 weeks old, and the court had already destroyed them. But yes, once it's recorded, it's kind of in there, in the record. So you may want to say, hey, I have this will, and we are going to ask for probate. We're going to give notice to all of the people involved. You may even have someone you know has a competing purported will. You give them notice too. Notice is king in probate. You give them notice that you're probating this will, even though they're not mentioned in it. After the time period goes by and the court rules on it saying, yes, this will is now admitted. If they come later and say, hey, wait, I've got this other will, and now in 2 months, the judge is going to say that the time has passed. You were given an opportunity to contest this. So it lets you lock in what you want to happen. The only way you change a will is with 2 witnesses, the testator, and which is the person who makes a will, and 2 witnesses have to all sign that document.
In front of a notary.
Generally, we will have a notary too. It's not strictly required though. If you don't have a notary present to do what's called a self-proving affidavit, we may have to either have those witnesses go to the court to sign an oath of witness to will, or have a commission appointed to go to that person to have them sign the oath of witness to will. So don't let
That's after the person has passed away. That may be
correct.
required.
After the person has passed away and you're asking the court to admit the will, you would go, if you don't have a self-proving affidavit, you have to have them swear an oath that they signed in the presence of the testator, and the other witness did as well. And I mentioned that because I don't want someone to think, hey, I don't have access to a notary right now, but it's really important to me to make this change, and this is the change I want. I'm ready to sign this. If you can have 2 witnesses, it's possible to make a new document. So
yeah, 2 witnesses.
And I'll add too, a good will done right is just the court's just going to rubber stamp it. It's a proceeding that gives everyone notice, that clears up all the issues and makes it final. All the creditors run on notice. No one owes any bills to the funeral home at that point. Everything's sorted out and done. It's just a rubber stamp in the court system. And on the inverse, not having a will and trying to do things the way where you're avoiding probate doesn't mean you're going to avoid the court system. There are a lot of chances that other issues will come up. And you might end up in small claims court for something. You might end up with a debt that you didn't know existed that came through later on. And it can be a big mess too. So at least with the will, you have autonomy and control over what's going to happen after you pass.
So just because you have a will doesn't mean you have to probate. Like, you do have to file the will. That has to be filed after the person's died. But the assets may be such that you still don't have to probate because everything transferred on death. If you did an enhanced life deed and it transferred upon death, or if your bank accounts had beneficiaries, and even with a vehicle, even if the vehicle is only in your name, very often DMV will allow you to bring the will up there and execute an affidavit, and they will transfer title to that vehicle. So if you have a house, bank accounts, life insurance, and a car, you still may not need to probate. So that's important to know. The other purpose, just of a will, a lot of people, it lessens dissension between your family members because you've appointed someone to be the personal representative. So they know, okay, this is who mom or whoever wanted to be over the estate. Or your personal property. You may have jewelry that you may want to leave to a relative, or clothing or whatever. And so it allows you to designate who gets what in that instance, and it just cuts down on disagreements. Yes, sir.
You mentioned cars and going to DMV with the death certificate. If a person has multiple cars, how many cars can he or she transfer? into the survivor's name?
Well, it's tricky, okay? Because first of all, DMV sort of allows you to do that, but I don't know what their internal policy is in terms of like the number of cars. But I've seen that happen very often where if you have a will and then you have the death certificate and fill out an affidavit, then DMV will transfer the vehicle. Now, the negative part of that may be with probate, you like, let's say you're the surviving spouse, you can get 2 cars exempt from the claims of creditors. So you may want to go through the probate process because that person had credit card debt or student loan debt, or well, probably not student loan debt, but other debt. And
I'm gonna die with some.
yeah, because when you pass away, a lot of times
They
they
go
will
away.
wipe the student loan debt away. At least they used to. I don't know under this new regime what's gonna happen.
Oh, brave new world.
Is that recorded?
Yeah.
But the yeah, so with the cars, like you get a benefit of surviving spouse or minor children, you can get certain exemptions. So you may want to go through probate for that reason.
Yeah, I can add to that.
Yeah, kind of goes back to homestead being like 18 things.
Yeah.
So, well, the homestead's a constitutional exemption. The exemption for automobiles is a statutory exemption, and it exempts 2 vehicles up to 15,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. So, got a school bus, a dump truck, it's probably not going to work. You should not be driving that as your daily driver anyway. But you can potentially transfer those. And usually, what I tell my clients, if it's those 2 things, the reason that the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles will transfer them is because there is a statutory exemption from creditors. And even if we're going to open probate, I tell them bring the will, bring the death certificate, tell the person at the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles there is no probate. That is a factually true statement. We have not filed anything. Even if they ask if there will be a probate, you can say, I don't know what tomorrow may bring. And sometimes they'll just go ahead and transfer those 2 automobiles if there's a something in the will that says it's to be transferred, or you're the person who's going to receive it under a residuary clause. Even if there's not a will, if you are a spouse or child, you don't have to be a minor child, but a child can inherit those automobiles. Depending on who you get, they may just go ahead and transfer them. They may. I don't have great luck with that.
It's to the maximum that they'll transfer with the will.
It depends on who you get. I
Right.
don't know. It really, the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles, it really depends. I have showed up with every piece of paper they have asked for, and they have still refused to even give me information. It really and truly depends on who you get.
Yeah. Trevor, you had a question?
Yeah. First of all, thank you guys. This is great information. I walked in a little late. They have covered this already. So let's just say there is no will and there's multiple siblings, but we all agree on the same thing. Then we still have to go through the probate cycle.
Yeah. You still gotta go. You have to go through probate to transfer the title. That's a legal requirement. So if it's a real piece of real estate, even though you all agree, you would still have to go through probate. Yeah.
And that's a great thing to all agree if you can.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
How long does probate normally take?
It depends. It depends on what you have. If it's just a house and everybody's in agreement, I mean, we've gotten summary administration, especially if it's their homestead property. Okay, so let me go back, because I know a lot of stuff that we talk about is legalese, and I apologize, and that's why you got to go see an attorney so they can break it down for you. But there's a thing called summary administration that you can do. You qualify if the assets are less than 75,000, if the decedent has been deceased for more than 2 years, or if the property is exempt in the case of like a home. So if it's like your mom, she passed away and it was her homestead, then that's called exempt property. We can do summary administration. Usually we can get that done if everybody's agreeing and everybody's signing waivers and in agreement in like 45 to 60 days. Like, it's really quick. If you're trying to sell the house, sometimes we can do it expedited and it's even quicker. But formal administration, or if it's contested, it could be years. I mean, I have cases that's 4 years old. So every case is really different. Did you want to talk?
Yeah, sure. All right. How long it can take is my least favorite question of all time. The range for me is somewhere from signing the representation agreement to entry of order determining homestead status of real property and summary administration, 11 days. Everyone was on the same page. They signed our representation agreement. They paid us very quickly. That was the fastest one that's ever happened. When we were sharing war stories before, we've been waiting for, I think the last 3 to 4 years now, just waiting on the IRS. This case is 7 years old. The person has been passed away. The money's been sitting in a bank account for 7 years because once a personal representative is appointed in a formal administration, if they distribute the assets and it turns out there is a tax debt, the personal representative is personally liable for that tax debt. So that money is going to sit in that bank account until we get the IRS to say, here is how much you are due in return, or here is how much the penalties are. In that case, the person didn't file taxes for like 6 or 8 years. So my person wisely is very unwilling to distribute a single penny. So how long it can take varies widely depending on how much everyone agrees and how complex stuff is. If you've got siblings who are on the same page, it can be pretty quick depending on the number of creditors. Formal administration, if you are trying to sell the property and you know that you've got about 60 days, formal administration can be the way to go. You can file the notice to creditors before the personal representative is appointed. And there is statutory law and case law on point that says once the personal representative is appointed, that notice to creditors relates back. So I do what I call my shotgun approach. We're going to file the petition for homestead, the petition for formal administration, whatever bonds and everything the court wants. We are also going to go ahead and publish the notice to creditors. If the court takes a month to appoint my personal representative, that means we've already ticked 30 days off of that clock. It's a 90-day notice that has to be published. So we've only got 60 more days to wait. Sometimes if you wait, and a lot of attorneys wait until the personal representative is appointed. I have gotten passive aggressive notes from judges, none in Pinellas County, saying, who appointed the personal representative? Because this judge has not done that, and you already published notice to creditors. So I had to file, and they struck everything, which really would have set us back. I filed a motion to reinstate all of that stuff, citing, it was almost 60 seconds of Googling that I had to do to find the relevant citations to draft this motion. And we got it all reinstated and we're able to close. And most of the stuff that we're doing, I think you guys would agree here, my co-panelists would agree. When we say to get this to sell, the person we're talking about making happy, we're talking about one person, and that's a title insurance underwriter.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to sell the property. You might be able to sell the property to, your brother or your cousin or something without a title agent involved. If it's an arm's length transaction, a prudent buyer will always get title insurance. And the most difficult person to please is going to be the title insurance underwriter. So when we're saying you have to do these things in order to sell it, some attorneys may say, hey, that's not right. You as a beneficiary, because the property descends under Article 10, Section 4 of the Constitution at the moment of death, you as a beneficiary can execute some sort of warranty deed to another person, and then that person can do the probate, although that is technically correct. The person you're selling that to, I don't want to use the word sucker, but they are really playing with fire, saying that I'm willing to take just your promise that you didn't mess up the title here. If you do that, the uniform title standards say that they can underwrite that title and the person can probate that estate. If you don't have any warranty language in there and you use quit claim language, and the probate estate still has to be done, that deed does nothing. So it's really wonky. I've handled some very weird cases and we have had to do that type of stuff, but don't.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. If say you got a case 7 years old, say the grandmother, whomever passed, but there's still a mortgage due on the property. Doing probate for that 7 years, the mortgage is still due. Can they foreclose? They can foreclose on that property.
Absolutely.
Well, how can you start the foreclosure if you're not the owner? They haven't established who's the actual owner.
They normally, when they do foreclosures, they name the heirs. So they'll do their own search and you'll get served let's say it's a grandmother and she had children, and they'll serve the heirs, they'll appoint an attorney ad litem to determine who the heirs are, and you'll get named, so you'll have the opportunity to defend or whatever in that foreclosure case. But the mortgage has to be paid, and so if you aren't paying it, they're gonna foreclose.
Well,
Yeah.
reverse mortgages.
Oh God, reverse mortgages. I
They're
hope there are
safe, by
no
the
more
way.
reverse mortgages out there
Don't get a reverse mortgage.
in our
number one.
community.
Yeah.
Because the problem with reverse mortgages, I mean, it could be a benefit. It just depends on what your intents, your purposes are. But obviously, we know with reverse mortgages, you get a mortgage while you're still living, usually an elderly person, and you don't have to repay it until after, until it doesn't get repaid until after you pass away. But so you don't pay anything, you don't make a mortgage payment, but as you live in the home, interest is still accruing. It's just not getting paid. So when you pass away, you may have borrowed 50,000. Now you owe 150,000, and then it's, when you pass away, it accelerates the even more. So you owe even more, and then you usually get about 6 months to deal with the mortgage, to pay it. And it's not like you can make payments. Like if you have a regular mortgage, if I'm about then, and even then, as long as you're making the payments, they don't really do anything. But with a reverse mortgage, you get 6 months to pay it off. Sometimes you can ask them for an additional 6 months, but after that, they're trying to get the house.
And they can sell it.
And they can sell it, absolutely.
I would like to add something.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
With regard to reverse mortgages, I'm sure that they don't want you. The owner of the property is still required to maintain that property. So if the home needs a roof and you get a notice from that reverse mortgage, they can begin the foreclosure process. It is their security interest that you have sold them
while you're living
will become a possessory interest if you don't abide by the terms of that reverse mortgage. I have seen some where I had one client, this was someone who was applying for Medicaid, and they had a home in another state, and the mortgage holder would occasionally drive by the house to see if anyone was living in it, because one of the terms of the reverse mortgage was that it was your primary residence. Now, the rules are weird on this. You can be getting Florida Medicaid benefits in a Florida nursing home while having said that your home in New Hampshire is your primary residence and you intend to return there. But when that reverse mortgage holder drives by and doesn't see anyone for a couple of months, they may start asking questions. And although under Florida law you may be good, the terms of your reverse mortgage may have been violated and they may start that foreclosure, which causes problems. If there's a surplus, now you may not qualify for Medicaid anymore.
And on just on the fine print note too, and we have a whole thing for community law program. We have a whole thing on reverse mortgages on our YouTube channel if you want to take some read it. But you also still owe taxes and insurance for reverse mortgage, but in like a real mortgage, like a traditional mortgage, they don't pay it for you. You owe that. So your house can be sold at a tax lien while you're alive if you don't remember to pay that. And also with mortgages too, you got to be very careful when the mortgage holder has passed away. That's who the mortgage company or the reverse mortgage company contracted with. So they can call in the whole note at once, even if you're paying on it, if they know. A lot of people get away because they do make timely payments, but it is a problem. And then everyone loses the value of that house because maybe it was a very small one. So good question on the mortgages.
Any other questions?
We got a question with the I think it's the Lady Bird deed or the life estate deed. If I jointly own a home, let's say like my brother, like my parents' old home, and then if I pass away and I want my portion of the ownership to go on to like my son, is that something you would do with a?
Yeah, I think you can do that with your partial interest.
Oh yeah. I can field this one.
Yeah.
I love property law. I told my wife, she does real estate, and they're like, hey, can you come speak at our office? I'm like, what do you need, 5 minutes? You need to type 5, I can do that. 3 hours, I can do that unprompted. I will sit here and talk as long as you will listen. When you own something as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, that is a legal fiction where both people own 100% of the property. You and I both know that that makes 200%, but that's how the legal fiction works. When one person dies, their interest just goes away. You can sever that joint tenants with rights of survivorship by conveying your interest to someone else. Although you may be able to do that under a single instrument by saying, I am conveying this remainder interest. Actually, that's not technically correct. The way a ladybird deed generally reads, it is a current, I, Patrick, give to Rachel this property, retaining for myself a life estate without liability for waste, with no responsibility to the remainderman, the right to revoke and keep all the proceeds. It's a paragraph about yay big. So it is a current distribution of a share of my estate. So I believe that would sever the joint tenancy, creating a tenants in common situation. When two people own property as tenants in common, that's super normal. That's you own 50%, I own 50%. When I pass away, my 50% goes to my heirs. By executing an enhanced life estate deed, you are severing the joint tenancy, which gets rid of the rights of survivorship, and you are giving your remainder interest in your share to your heirs. I think you may want to, just to make it abundantly clear, you may want to do a two deeds. If you do two instruments, saying that I am giving my share of this property to myself as tenants and as a tenant in common with this other person, and then giving my share, doing a separate instrument, creating the enhanced life estate. Yeah, I would probably do a little bit of reading on severing those joint tenants with rights of survivorship and put a note in your file. Here's how I came to this conclusion. I'm notorious for saying, why did I do that? I have no idea. And I do a little bit of research and figure it out later. It's possible, but sometimes a couple of extra steps can make it abundantly clear what you're trying to accomplish.
So the joint tenants with rights of survivorship means that you own title with someone, and then if you pass, like let's say it's two people, if one of them passes away, then the other person will own the property 100%. So a lot of people do that if you have, your mother's home and you own it with siblings, and basically the last man standing owns the house 100%. Well, if that's the case, though, their heirs would be entitled to the property because they own it. So you may instead say tenants in common. Like when you go through the probate process and everybody gets on the house, you're on there as tenants in common, meaning everyone owns a fractional interest. So if it's 5 people, you each own 1/5 of the house. Sometimes you don't want that to happen because if someone's living in the house, they can't get homestead exemption. So you want it to be joint tenants with rights of survivorship. But if you own it 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, it makes it easier. Of course, I don't know how you and your brother own the home, but what Patrick is saying is that if you own it as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, if you execute that deed, that enhanced life deed, then you may be severing that joint tenants with rights of survivorship, and then it's just tenants in common, which means you got to look and see, will we still get the homestead exemption? Will 100%, or will we get it 50%? So that's why an attorney, like I say see an attorney. Like you don't have to see me, see an attorney, somebody, because it can get real complicated, and you want to make sure you're making the right moves.
There's a question right there.
Yeah, she answered it.
Okay.
My question was, do you still, even with that fee, need to get attorney, like, will it still go through probate, and you still need to, you still need to seek help?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're having an attorney draft these things too, because it's a mess. Yeah.
Yeah, when the person passes away, though, no. So creating the instrument, yes, you want to have an attorney involved in that. You have to, but man, you just don't know what's going to happen unless you've got someone like me who, my partner fights over them. I don't like to do litigation. I like boring cases. I like doing trusts. It's like building a watch. It's really intricate inside. It's kind of mechanical. But you want someone who understands how this stuff goes. It just record that. So If that happens, his heirs, when he passes away, his heirs will record the death certificate, and now they would own the property as tenants in common with his brother. Maybe that's its own kind of nightmare.
Okay, one second half. Why is it, when there's a will,
Yeah, we talked about that earlier. A will does not avoid probate. A will is just instruction. Want to be in charge of a state to be probated, but it does not avoid probate. And with that being said, we want you to have a will still, because
Instead of going to the courts for anything, because they don't want the government in their business. The government's still going to be in your business anyway. And if you don't have a will, you have to do something called an affidavit of heirs. And it is a form that lists out everyone. I have lots of copies up here if anyone wants it. It's a really annoying form that at least 2 people in your family need to do if you're with Judge Campbell, that lists out everyone's names, birthdays, death dates, children, grandchildren, cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone. And that gets filed in the court system anyway. So they're going to all know your business. And I will add too, just a small pitch with this. So with FEMA benefits, we all just destroyed it twice in a hurricane here. It used to be that FEMA would not give any benefits to anyone if there was no owner of the house. This year they started for the first time accepting this affidavit of heirs with a death certificate to at least start the application benefits instead of having to go through probate before you apply. So if you have not applied for the applications, by the way, just on a side note, they accept applications if you have a good excuse. But this affidavit of heirs is super important document if you don't have a will. It's super annoying. So just do a will in the beginning, or go talk to Big Mama, make her do a will.
Are we here till 12 o'clock? Is that our cutoff? Till 12.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Are we going to do rapid fire stump the attorneys?
Right.
Well, let me make one more pitch to that.
Okay.
A living will is not a will. And there is a difference between estate planning and capacity planning. So a will applies after you've already passed away, but there are documents you can do before you pass away as well that are capacity planning documents. For example, healthcare surrogate designation. So you're appointing who in your family or friends when you want to make decisions if you're unable to. A living will, power of attorney, these documents are while you're living. They do not apply after you've already passed away. So if you have a living will, you do not have a will. If you have a will, you do not have a living will. They are different things.
Yeah. A lot of people do come in and say, oh, I want a living will. So that's just a terminology. A will is a last will and testament. A living will has to do with how you want your when you're in the hospital, whether you want like life sustaining treatment, et cetera. That's a living will. So in our last 5 minutes, I know we have one more question. I did want Patrick to talk a little bit about Medicaid planning. I've been practicing for 26 years. I've family law, criminal law, et cetera. Past 8 or 9 years, I've been doing probate almost exclusively. I love it because we need it. In this community, we need to be doing a planning because that's passing on generational wealth. And so I love being in the position to be able to do that. But I also know that the community law program is offering a great service, free legal help with a lot of this stuff that is helpful for people. And so I definitely encourage that. And then Patrick, I've actually referred to Medicaid planning to him. I just started kind of doing Medicaid planning, dabbling in it. But it is important because we get a lot of people who go to nursing homes, et cetera, and you don't want to lose all your assets. So I wanted him to be able to talk a little bit about that. But you had a question.
What's the difference between will and trust?
That's the question. So a will is just instructions on where you want your things to go. A trust, if you're done right, it does avoid probate. A trust is a whole lot more expensive than a will, and it's probably 3 or 4 or 5 times more expensive than a will. But just to be short, it's just instructions on where you want your assets to go would be your last will and testament. The trust actually allows you to be creative. Like if you have minors that you want to leave some funds to, if you have assets out of the state of Florida, you can put all that in the will, title those assets in the name of the trust. Put all that in the trust, title all that in the name of the trust, and it would help you avoid probate. I hope that short and sweet.
I see that we have 2 minutes left. A trust divides the legal and equitable title to property and allows you to give instructions. I usually say under 3 circumstances, a trust is worth the money. Do you own more than one piece of real property? Do you own a closely held corporation or company? Or do you have minor children to whom you wish to leave things? If minor children would inherit more than $15,000, the court requires you to do a guardianship, get a trust in those circumstances. Otherwise, planning for Medicaid. If you need to go to a nursing home or you need to go to assisted living, the average cost for a nursing home is $10,438 a month. A month. The asset limit is $2,000 of countable assets. Your house generally doesn't count if it's your primary residence. One car of any age or value does not count against you. I had a client whose brother was a doctor and owned a Ferrari. He purchased a $130,000 interest in his brother's Ferrari, and he qualified for Medicaid. So there are lots of weird things that we can do. I have gotten people who had over $1 million qualified for Medicaid so that their spouse got all of their income, and the nursing home received $0 from the client. State of Florida paid for everything. Well, the state of Florida and the taxpayers paid for everything. So just because you have more than $2,000 or more than $2,901 in income each month, don't let that stop you from thinking, how can I get qualified for Medicaid? Call someone like me or an elder law attorney to say, hey, what can I do? If you qualify for one day of the month, you qualify for the entire month. So generally, as long as you get to me by the 13th or 14th, depending on when the weekends fall, I can get you qualified for the same month.
And for that, definitely go to an attorney, because there's also, like I mentioned before, scams. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of scams.
All right. Okay.
We're cut up.
Good. All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And before, I know individuals started late, but we'll start with you. Because I know there's no charge and just explain what you do, just in case the individuals that came late need to get in contact with each of them.
Okay, so I am Tamara Felton Howard. I practiced law in South St. Pete for 26 going on 27 years. Right, for the past 9 or 10 years, I've been doing estate planning and probate almost exclusively. I do some real estate development law. And my office is right across from the main post office on First Avenue North, 3110 First Avenue North. Please feel free to call me. I'm not free. I do charge. And so, but I love what I do, and I'd be more than happy to help anyone.
She's been in the community forever. She's trustworthy, and she'll get it done for you.
Thank you.
Business card.
I do have business card. I also have some flyers, and I know community law also does as well. So.
Yep. My name is Rachel Stanger. Before I came to community law program last year, taking over for Kimberly Rogers, I spent 12 years as a family law litigator. So that's kind of my knowledge based on that. But at community law program, we've been serving South Pinellas County for over 35 years now, with a focus on anything civil for legal aid. One of the programs that Kim Rogers helped develop on that end is with the city of St. Pete that I mentioned before, is our probate area for residents of the CRA. And we also have many, many other civil programs. So just because you don't live in the CRA doesn't mean you don't qualify for our services and we can't help you. We have on-staff housing attorneys, family law attorneys, and probate attorneys. And we have over 20 clinics a month for various civil topics, ranging from probate to bankruptcy, and helping kids who age out of foster care, lots of different programs like that. We are located downtown. Most of the stuff we do is virtual because we want to be accessible to you, accessible to the court system, and help out on that part. But we are free. We have, because of our grant funding, there are various income limits for what we can do, but we are here to help. We also do a lot of educational programs and outreach. On Monday, March 31st, we did a 3-hour presentation on planning and protecting your assets 101 that Patrick was at as well. And we did that at Greater Mount Zion, but we want to go to places like this church and in with community to do these kind of educational events. It's part of our mission. And
Rachel and I aren't just involved with community law program like recently. Although she may be the executive director, I consider myself the senior person because I was the intern before she was.
Yeah, and he had summer 2011 and I had fall 2011. Yeah.
and I think we were in evidence together
Yeah.
in law school. So we've been
At
involved with that
Stetson?
Yeah.
Oh,
Stetson.
okay. All of us are Stetson
Yeah.
grads.
Nice. So we've been involved with that program for a long time. The St. Pete community means a great deal to us. You can get to me for free. You get to me from community law program. I handle a few cases a year for free, keeping people in houses and in their cars. My name is Patrick Douglas Quarles. I am a shareholder of Rickert Quarles, PA. Me and my partner, who also met at Stetson, we do probate litigation, estate planning, Medicaid planning. If you call me, I'm going to talk to you and figure out if I can do something for you. I myself am a consumer, and I want to know that someone can help me before I give them any dollars. So if you call and say, this is what I've got going on, I'm going to talk to you. 727-235-6461.
Say your last name again.
Quarles, Quarles.
Yeah.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll stick around for a little while, guys, so you can catch them on the side or whatever, because we really have to roll.
Yeah.
Yep, please.
I will talk all day, literally.
Yeah, that's good.
Live streaming?
Yeah.
That's it. Check on the live streaming?
So we're gonna roll right into the next panel, guys. If you would like to speak to the attorneys, please step out of this room and have that conversation so we can roll into our next panel. And then once we finish this panel, we'll take a break for lunch. So the quicker we can get through this panel, the quicker we can get to lunch. Can I get my real estate panels up to the front, please? Lindo, Corey Monroe, Ice. The main man in the gray suit. Pull up another chair.
Okay, I got it.
Oh, yeah. Great town. Where did Great Town go?
Hey, what kind of boots here?
Twitter is too.
They're announcing you guys right now, the DJ.
Yes.
Out there announcing.
Discussion, which is Black men in real estate. If you want to be a part of this discussion, please have a seat so we can get this thing on the road.
Your balls up there. Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, man, Herb did his thing. Right?
After we finish this panel discussion, guys, we'll break. We'll take a break and we'll get some lunch. Lunch will be served after this panel discussion. Okay, guys, this is the next panel discussion about Black men in real estate. We got some strong brothers up here. They're gonna give you guys some good information. I see a lot of ladies out here, so tell your brothers, your uncles, take good notes for them, because your sons, they may grow up to want to invest in real estate. And from this panel that you guys see sitting up here, you're going to get a lot of great information that can help them on their journey. So I'm going to start on this end and just let these guys introduce themselves and tell you who they are and where they're from.
How you guys doing? Thank you for having me. It's the second year in a row. Last year was great as well. My name is Wendell Charles. I'm a senior vice president at Truist Bank. My job is to make sure that we are lending to minorities. So I cover about 6 states for the most part. We focus on majority Black, majority Hispanic census tracts for fair lending. So it's very important that we are lending to all aspects of the community versus one side of town. And so I make sure we do that. Interestingly enough, St. Pete was an area that we had to focus on last year, and we did pretty good on the numbers. It looked like they just came out this year, but it doesn't mean you let your foot off the gas, right? You kind of got to keep on it. And the most important thing is information, right? Getting the information in hand, because unfortunately for us, we just don't have the information. So my job is to make sure that I get that information out. And this guy, y'all should know who this guy is. He's a legend. Right? I'll let him go ahead. He's a legend. Y'all should know who this is.
I'm just a young brother born and bred in St. Pete.
Do y'all know Corey? Does anybody know?
Some folk.
Boy, this boy here.
Come on, man. You a highly educated brother. Now I got to come behind
So
you.
Listen, forget education. And he has education as well. Don't let him fool you. But to do what this man has done, I got chills. I know the Lord talking to me when I get chills. I got chills because to do what he's done, where he come from, no excuses.
Yeah,
Nobody
that man there used to give me a lot of paddling in middle school too, man. I still got feelings about that. Well, trauma. Yeah, I got trauma. PTSD. My name's Corey Monroe. I mean, like I said, I'm born and bred right here in St. Petersburg, Florida. My whole overall goal to get into real estate was I wanted to give my family, my kids, a place to stay. That was my whole goal. And that's how I started off. You know, I just wanted all my kids to have a house when I leave here. So everybody didn't have to fight about one house. Everybody gets their own house and you go and do your business. So, you know, I'm just starting grinding, I'm slow rolling, getting ready to build my first apartment complex.
We should talk.
Yeah, we need to do that though. But I tell anybody, man, if you in here and you got good credit, there's no reason why you can't get real estate, period. I don't care how much money you got. And you know, for the life of me, I ask the question all the time. People protect their credit and people use credit to go out and buy cars, clothes, you know, credit cards. But for some reason they don't want to use the credit to make money. You know what I mean? You want to get the credit and give somebody else some money, but use the credit to make some money for yourself. And you know, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see Big Mama have one house. I want y'all to be the big mamas and have a plethora of houses and give everybody something. But that's my spiel. That's what I'm here for, and that's what I like to do. Mm.
That's good.
Yeah.
My name is Les Hines. I'm originally from Indiana. I've been in St. Petersburg for about 9 years now. I'm an investor. I buy properties. I have multiple units in Indianapolis, and I start buying properties here in St. Petersburg, and I rent them out, and I have a property for myself to live in. The reason I got into real estate was when my uncle passed away, and my family, he had several properties, several cars, and my family didn't know what to do. I mean, they're talking about probate. They didn't know what to do with his cars. They didn't know what to do with his houses. And I'm like, okay, you know, my mom was like the oldest of 13 kids. So I'm like, I'm going to have some other siblings, her other siblings are going to pass away. And to not know what to do once that happens, like, okay, we have the house, what are we going to do? And it's like, we didn't have the answers to these questions. So I'm like, okay, so of course we contacted attorneys and all the other stuff. But I'm like, let me, you know, get deeper into real estate because this is something that we all have to have somewhere to lay our head. Whether you're renting, whether you're buying, you have to sleep somewhere, and that's real estate. So I'm like, let me get more information pertaining to this so I can help myself and also my family.
How you doing? My name is Ike Revelum. I'm originally from New York. Got here before COVID, so I'm not one of those guys. I'm also director over at Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment Division. I'm also with Keller Williams portfolio collection in Largo, and primarily right now I'm in multifamily real estate investing, primarily apartment buildings, but also working on getting into more of rehab as well as new development space. But I've been a real estate agent going on 16 years now, and I think I started real estate just because I was watching a lot of the TV programs, the fix and flips, and particularly millionaire $1 million listings, which they filmed in New York. And I met a couple of those guys and realized that there weren't many people who look like me in that space, and I'm coming from New York. So for me, the passion was really lit because I like being in spaces where people don't see a lot of us and trying to get more of us in those spaces as well. So just like a lot of the brothers said, real estate is a vehicle that I think that everyone should be involved in one shape or form because we all need housing, and it's better being owner than to be a renter. At the end of the day, it's ownership is the major thing that I know I push with, particularly men of color. It's like we have to own and control our own destiny, so it's important for us to own.
So before we ask the question, he said something very important, and I got chills. I'm telling you, when God's speaking to me, boy, I get chills. So whenever I get chills, I got to speak on something instantly. Fix and flip. Don't be fooled. Whatever you see on HGTV and all that stuff is not real. That is scripted. You have to plan a fix and flip. You got to know what you're doing, because when it don't sell, you still got to pay for it. And so I have two of my friends that had shows on TV, Homes and Homes, one of my close friends. Half them houses never sold. It never sold for what they said they were selling for. They only came in and put cosmetic stuff to show for the show. And it gives us a false hope that we can go do that. Anybody can go do that. Fix and flick it ain't for everybody. You have to go and know what you're doing. So prepare yourself. Talk to experts. Don't just watch it on TV. And please don't go on TikTok and Instagram, because everybody's a rehabber and everybody's a guru on everything with no background doing it. So if you're taking your advice from those folk, I caution you, because it's like he said, like if I'm in St. Pete, I'm finding this dude, right? I'm gonna look him up. I'm gonna go ask questions to folks at churches that will know who own in real estate before I start fixing and flipping. Because I'm telling you, you lose all your money. Every little bit of the rest you have, you will lose trying to fix and flip.
It is a tricky industry.
Yep.
And that's why we have these caliber of four guys up here speaking to you all today, because that was some very good information. I also do a lot of fixing and flipping, and I bought into certain situations to where I thought I was going to spend 30,000 and had to spend 55,000. Less enough that I had the funds to carry that, because I've also bought a lot of properties that people couldn't finish. So it does happen. Now I have about 10 questions. A lot of these are specific to you gentlemen, but if anybody wants to add in after, just ask for the mic and you'll get it. Y'all see, I got some talkers up here, so I'm gonna try to control these guys, but it's one of me and it's four of them. And there's a lot of knowledge you guys are about to get, okay? So, Mr. Monroe, I'm glad you're drinking that water before we get going.
Yeah, let's do it.
Black-owned business.
Yeah.
Please keep your bottle, look him up, invest in him. Mr. Ray Tampa, you got a nice podcast. You may want to reach out to this guy for sponsorship or anything of that nature. He donated all the water to this event today. He brought in several cases for us to give out to you guys. So make sure you promote this water every chance you get. Black-owned business, found by Ms. Tamisha Dollar Roberson, who is the host of this event. So great. Reach out to him for your podcast and sponsorship. Anybody doing any kind of event for the community, reach out to this brother.
I want you to know I do what he tells me.
So, cause I ain't gonna lead you wrong, right? So, Mr. Monroe, okay, you brought it up that you wanted all your kids to have something, but when you leave, you didn't want everybody to fight over one house. So, as an investment strategy, what are some investment strategies that you would recommend to beginners looking to enter into the real estate market?
First of all, if you got your credit together, you might want to get with somebody that actually know what they're doing. Who I am here. But my thing is, for me, I think you need to get in and flip something first. I mean, you can get into real estate, you can get into rental properties, but rental properties, it's a slow process. My thing is go in, do some fix and flips, get your money up, and then you can invest in the rental properties for the long run. Because you just like you say, right now I got like three properties that's empty. I got 3 people moved out last month, so them mortgages still got to be paid. But if all your money is just based on the rental income that comes in, like I say, that's a slow trickle. You know, and you see these shows, and I'm like him on TV. They tell you $100 a door. That's their thing. Oh, you come in, you make $100 a door. I'm like, man, $100. If your AC break, now you got 5-6 months of no money coming in. You know, it's just reverse. But I think it's a good time right now to buy and to buy rental property as well, because you know, when rates go up, prices go down. If anybody look at Zillow right now, you see all the houses say price cut, price cut, price cut.
35%.
Yeah, price cut, price go. I mean, so the rates are high right now, but it's a good time to buy now because when the rates do go down, you're gonna be in a fabulous position because all the prices of the houses are gonna go up. Once the rates go down, all the prices going up. But man, we're talking about rent. I looked it up yesterday. The average rent in St. Pete 2014 was like $900. Right now, the average rate of rent in St. Petersburg is $2,100. So I don't know if you're on fixed income. I don't know, you know, if your paycheck gonna go up, but you gotta think that's $1,000 in 10 years. Had your income increase $1,000 in 10 years a month. You know what I mean? So right now, I think everybody need a piece of real estate just to control your cost of living. Other than that, it's just gonna keep skyrocketing up, 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 and up. Did I answer the question?
Yes.
Okay. Hey.
To me, that tells me he got a lot going on upstairs, right? He's crazy. We talked about this for a long time. All right, but keeping it moving next. This is for you, Mr. Wenzel. So as a banker, and when we're talking about real estate and what it can do to impact the community, how can real estate investing contribute to the economic empowerment in the Black community?
That's a really good question. So I look at it several ways, right? We don't play the stock market. Most of us don't play the stock market, right? If you look at the richest people in the world, most of them own what?
Real estate.
Real estate.
Yeah.
Most of them own land. Because what did our grandfathers tell us a long time ago? They ain't making no money. When we grew up, we owned the community. Mama house, grandma house, grandpa house, cousin house, everybody was on the block, right? When you own the block, you create wealth in our own community, right? So what you see happening to our communities is people that don't look like you and I come into community and they buy up the commercial spaces. So then you walk in the store, well, typically you'll see Mr. Calvin in that store. Now you see a guy that doesn't speak the language and we're still supporting. They're owning the block now, right? Because we don't see the value in the block no more. So what you can do as an African American person, you can leverage real estate to control wealth, right? You can leverage real estate to control wealth. In times like this, I can tell you right now, Corey has so much equity in his houses. If he just said, I'm gonna cash out and I'm done, he'd never have to work again the rest of his life, just on the equity he has in his properties. Because he's gonna gain more equity in his properties than he's gonna do playing the stock market. You can get lucky playing the stock market, but if you want to build generational wealth and wealth within your own community, it's buying. It can be a dilapidated property, and you can't see the vision. You buy it anyway, because the land is the value. You pay that lot off, you pay that land off, then you leverage it for something else. So you can create different avenues for yourself in real estate in our own community. And you can't be afraid of the banks. You can't be afraid of saying, I have no money. Y'all know how many houses I bought with zero down? Zero down. HUD, $100 down. If there's a home in the community and it's a HUD home, you can put $100 down to buy that house. It's easy. And you can say, well, I can't afford it. Guess what? Corey, my brother. So I can call Corey, and Corey can become a non-owner occupant of that home. A cosign for me to get this house, right? And that's how we leverage wealth in our communities. One last thing is, my son is about to graduate next month from LSU. He knows we don't rent, we buy. So I said, bro, you got 1 year when you graduate law school that you can rent an apartment. 1 year and 1 year only. Because we do not rent, we buy. It's a mentality.
Yeah.
I have to put it, when he went to school, I bought a house right by the college for him. This is your house, maintain it. 3,000 square foot home, brick home, maintain it. Y'all, I use my credit to buy the house. It's his responsibility, but I'm teaching him early. It's a mindset. And if we can control that, we can control how money flows throughout our communities.
Oh, I want to say your son balling in the 3,000 square feet.
Yeah, he got roommates. He got roommates.
His daddy a banker now.
He got roommates. He got roommates.
So down in the house with no money down, which to me, that goes back to Mr. Monroe saying, if your credit is good, use your credit to make money instead of giving out money.
Yeah.
I have a almost the same story as Mr. Charles. My daughter graduated from FAMU a little over a year now, and that was my same thing. We don't rent, we own. She had a year. For me, it was you're out of school now. I need you to find a job. Show me you're gonna hold that job down for a year, and then we will buy you a house. We're gonna buy her a townhome. I'm gonna make sure it's 3 bedrooms, so she has a job. She's a property manager, so she already has real estate in her mind, right?
Yeah.
So not only is she gonna have her own house, she's gonna have one with 3 bedrooms where now she can collect rent with the people that she know, her friends. But daddy gonna be the landlord. I bought the house, right? It's your house. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna let your friends take advantage of your situation. Because if I'm gonna teach you, I'm gonna teach them at the same time. Because dad used to be a property manager for 10 years, and I know all about 3-day notices, eviction, and all that. So daddy gonna be the landlord, so I'm the bad guy, right? But my daughter's gonna be in a position to where she can grow in real estate because we buy, we don't rent. We own, we don't rent, right? Good stuff. Mr. Leff, you spoke about you also have properties in other states.
Correct.
Did I hear you say that? Okay, good. So this question is definitely for you. So challenges faced. What are some unique challenges that Black men face in the real estate investing arena, and how can they overcome them?
The challenges that we face in, our skin color is just not getting the opportunities. There's sometimes the banks won't lend to us like they will some of our predecessors, and they have more money to start than we do. We didn't come from much, so we had to grind for ours. And so those are some of the challenges that we have to face as far as trying to get monies to get it started in real estate. A whole lot of people say, hey, I want to get involved in real estate. People are like, okay, this is a good meeting and everything, but how do I get started? And a lot of people want to get started and they're, well, I don't have a lot of money. The way that I got started was I had 2 investors say this guy was selling a property. And I know, give me, like, okay. So I go to this gentleman and say, hey, I got a buddy that's selling a house. How much does he want? He said, it's like with the station in between, and that's how I got into business. That's how I generated my income to get started. But I was also hanging out in they're called auctions, but now a lot of the auctions are online. I love the auctions that were just like this. It's like we would be up front, and you guys out there will be buying the properties, and you would bid. I'm coming in, I'm broke, I don't have any money, but I know this guy, I'm that guy, so they buy properties. So I came in and I would put people together, and then I was able to generate enough money that then I was able to start buying properties myself. So that's how I got in. Instead of going to a lot of banks at the time, I wasn't interested in getting a lot of loans from the bank, because right now I'm in the position now where I have a lot of my friends and relatives that are trying to retire. But you can't retire, you still got $10,000 on your mortgage. And so you're like, okay, I want to retire. The clock says, and the calendar says that I'm old enough to retire, but my debt saying that I can't. So it's a situation where now you like have to take out, you have to either go in and refinance the property for lower interest rate, um, and or go get a part-time job, or sell the property, downsize, go live with your son, your daughter, and that's what we are now. It's a situation where, okay, I want to retire, but I can't afford to. And so the main thing is trying to get pride in home ownership. When they say pride in home ownership, when they say own, I'm talking about owning it, free and clear. And that's what a lot of us don't own. Because we'll say, yeah, it's my house. Yeah, but if you start paying this mortgage payment, the bank will let you know whose house this is. And so actually get an opportunity to, like he was saying, get a property that's a fixer upper, where you can actually own that property. And that's one thing that a lot of us really don't own. We say we do, but if you have a mortgage on it, it's not your house until you can own it free and clear. And so I don't know if I answered the question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I got a rebuttal. No disrespect.
Yeah.
I got a rebuttal. So if you have a mortgage on your house, you own it. When you pay it off, you own it, but you still have a mortgage payment because you have property taxes and insurance. And let me tell you, you stop paying that doggone property tax, court's gonna come over here and take it from you.
Yeah.
So you're never ever not gonna have a payment on it, right? So let's get that. You're never not gonna have a payment on it. You're gonna always have property taxes. You'll always have insurance, and stop paying them. They're gonna force insurance. Well, they're not gonna force insurance if you don't have a mortgage on it. So if it burns, it just burns.
Yeah.
If you stop paying them taxes,
They come.
Corey's gonna let tax sale.
They come.
The other thing is, I have no barriers. I don't care what. I buy what I want, when I want, where I want, and how I want. There's my skin color is not a barrier. The bank is not a barrier to me. I could care less. Let me tell you something. This is it right there. Never take a no from a person that's not in position to give you yes. So if you go to that bank and they tell you no, thank you so much, I'm gonna go to the next one because I'm gonna get my yes. We have to stop with the mentality that somebody is stopping us. Nobody is stopping me. I told my son, boy, you're gonna be a lawyer. And you're gonna be a lawyer because you can do anything you want with a law degree. You can do anything you want. You don't have no barriers, you have choices. We came out, we flew down in Atlanta. We flew down to buy him a car 4 years ago. We got there, they pulled a switch on us. He said, we gotta buy it. I said, excuse my French, H, no, we don't. We got in the car, drove 2 hours somewhere else in Florida, bought the car and back home. We always got choices, bro. We don't never, ever, ever. That's the mentality that we have as a people. Because Corey, you were told no.
All the time.
You were told no, but look what you did. How many properties do you own?
Right now, I got close to 30 though.
Man, I ain't got nothing else to say.
And just to piggyback on what you said, it's not that we don't have choices. We know we have choices, but sometimes we don't get out of our own way. I've bought houses. Let's just say Child's Park. Matter of fact, I bought this house from Corey Monroe. New construction.
He stole it too. He owe me something right now. You got to owe me something right now.
I stole it, then I sold it, and I wish I wouldn't have sold it.
Yeah.
But what I face is people will say, man, I don't want to live in the hood. Shoot.
Ain't no hood no more.
I'm selling you a new construction. The house next door is new construction. The house across the street is new construction. The house on the corner is new construction. This ain't the hood no more. But yet and still, all these new constructions, you stand on the same block in the middle in a raggedy house that you rent.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. You pay more for your rent that if you would have bought this house, your mortgage wouldn't have been as much as you rent, and you would have owned it. So sometimes we just got to get out our own way. Stop saying the hood. The hood ain't the hood. Every neighborhood in St. Pete right now today has at least one house that's $1 million.
Wow.
Poppy Park, Child's Park, Jordan Park. Look it up. If it ain't $1 million, it's 900.
That's $1 million, Will.
So so when we had the panel this morning about Big Mama's house, even if it's not renovated to high standards,
Yeah.
the land, it's like he said, it's still worth something. Because you got people that will give you 400,000 and tear it down.
Yeah.
You build something
Yeah.
and sell it for $1 million because that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Y'all see these 2 stories, 4 bedroom, 2 bath, in-law suite in the back, upstairs, downstairs garage, them $1 million properties.
Yeah.
And they all in the hood, as we used to say.
That's right.
So we got to get out our own way, and we got to teach our kids to get out of their own way, and we just have to educate them on what's right. Because real estate is where it's at, and the hood ain't the hood. Let's leave it there. So we're gonna move on. Ike, I know this young man, and if y'all would have saw Ike maybe 3 weeks ago, he had half. I'm just letting you know, but he was dealing with a situation on a multi-family property that he was dealing with in, what is it, Chicago? So he was trying to get into the closing table, and he had a lot of challenges he had to face, right? So regulatory challenges. What are some regulatory challenges that you think disproportionately affects Black investors? And how can these be addressed?
Ooh, I got a tough question.
Yeah, that's a good one now.
I think,
I don't see Ike looking like this too often.
yeah.
But once
Now,
he starts running, watch how he take off with it.
no, I would say right now, unfortunately, what things that are kind of going to affect a lot of us here, from a regulatory standpoint, is going to be how. Oh, sorry. I think it's probably going to be how properties or the areas where we are now are zoned. What can be built and what can't be built. So we were talking about Big Mama's house. Okay. What can be built on that house? If you're looking at it, if you want to start getting into, rehabbing developments, that property can only have one house on it. So if it's only like, how do you, from a regulatory standpoint, or how do you improve that property? There are different ways. You may have to go downtown and see about rezoning it. Trying to see if it's possible to rezone it. Maybe the city will allow you a variance where you're able to then be able to build 2 houses on it. Now, if depending on the size of the property, you may not be able to all of a sudden turn Big Mom's house into a 10-story apartment building. You may not be able to do that. But what you may be able to do is something that, and I'm going to transition to what the brothers were talking about in regards to getting your first step into real estate. But what you may be able to do is also from just regulation, seeing if maybe you can add an ADU, which is, alternative dwelling units. I never can say that right, but something like that. Or seeing if you could possibly try to get a rezone so that you can add the additional property on that lot. So from a regulatory standpoint, I think that a lot of times we as people of color, we don't even know about that, those type of things. We don't know what you can do with Big Mama's house. What can you do? Or maybe, a lot of times Big Mama's house has a lot of acreage. Like you got a lot of space back there. What can be built on it? Can it be something where you can add additional homes, or can you turn it into a mixed use? Where if it's large enough where you can do mixed use, then guess what? You may be able to build a restaurant on the first level and then apartments above it, depending on where you are. This is not just for St. Pete, but it's all over. So I know Toby. She has land. We can always look at different. I don't know. Toby's right here. Yeah. So looking at what can be zoned on that property, I think is something that a lot of us don't know about as people. We're not familiar with what's going on, and that you can change the zoning in a particular, on a piece of land. But again, in where a lot of us own, there may not be a variance for that. So I think that's something that disproportionately affects us. One, the lack of knowledge, us not knowing what we can do with that piece of land, and then and like the brother said here, get with someone. If you have a piece of land or you have a property that you're like, okay, I have this now, I don't know what to do with it. Talk to some professionals. Get go down to City Hall, see what can be done in regards to that property. So this way you can try to maximize the usage of the property that you may come into, because I think the lack of knowledge and it is what's hurting us in all aspects, not just from regulation, zoning and things like that. I think just us as a people not having as much knowledge in regards to real estate and what can be done. So hopefully that's, but I want to chime in a little because I'm going to go a little against the grain with some of what the brother said here in regards to getting into real estate. I think me personally, and you know, the brothers can challenge me on that. I think the easiest or most economical way to get into real estate is when you think about purchasing your first home, look at the duplex.
Yep.
You live in one, someone lives
Rent
in
the other
another,
side.
and then that person pays your rent. That's how I started. I started out, it wasn't apartment buildings. My first property as a young brother in New York, I bought a duplex in the hood. And Newark, New Jersey. Okay? That was my first. I bought a duplex. I moved someone into the first floor apartment, and because of I had a tenant there, they paid most of my mortgage.
Yep.
And within 12 months, what did I do? I took all the money from the that I normally would have spent on rent and bought the second one.
So Ike, can you elaborate a little bit? So I'm your tenant, right? You're buying the property. I already live there, right? You don't have all the money for you don't qualify from a mortgage standpoint. But what you can do is, since I'm the tenant and he has a lease already in place, he can use my income.
So what? Okay, it's and a lot of people did, and I have no problems giving kudos where it is. I started looking at a platform called Bigger Pockets, biggerpockets.com. It's a huge platform. It's what's called the BRRRR strategy. BRRRR.
Yeah.
Buy, renovate, refinance, and repeat. BRRRR. That's what I did. I bought my first property, little work. It was a duplex. Moved a tenant in there within 12 months, and I bought that property FHA 3.5% down. It was my primary residence, so I only had to put down 3.5%. The tenant paid the mortgage. My salary went to saving for the next property. After 12 months, FHA, I refinanced out of that property because you only can have one FHA loan attached to your personal social security number. So after 12 months, I refinanced out of that property into a conventional mortgage. Bought it because I saved all the money I spent in New York rent, normally New York, New Jersey rent. I took that money and I bought another duplex.
Time. Right there. Come on. Right, come on. It's gonna come back to you. Come back to you.
Nah, my bad.
I was about to jump in with it.
This control gang got to be serious with these folks. But no, good stuff. Good stuff because I really saw the brother go through a phase 3 weeks ago, and it's also now a success story because he did finally get it to the closing table, and now he's able to move forward in his investing venture. So congratulations on that, my brother. So I know everybody getting hungry. We're smelling this good food. We're gonna try to wrap this up in the next 10 minutes, but I am gonna get everybody else at least one more opportunity to respond. Let's go to Mr. Monroe. Future outlook. What is your vision for the future of Black men in real estate investing, and what steps can be taken to foster greater participation?
Oh, well, I'm all over the place with that one.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's so many different avenues though. Just like what he's talking about, y'all talking about the down payment and the BRRRR method. Like, just imagine you got $100 grand. Well, let's say here, St. Pete, you need 200 grand. So 200 grand, you could buy a house, right, and rehab it, and use that same 200,000. Just keep repeating itself. But if you got 200,000, it's gonna cost you 20% to put money down on the property. That 200,000 now you can only get 10 properties, as opposed to if you use that same 200 and buying it outright and refinance it, you can use that 200,000 to buy as many properties as you want. But as far as Black folks, we have to come together. And I'm just thinking about even on the rental part. I mean, if you got right now, I'm doing a lot of ADUs, accessory dwelling units. So I could buy a property for 200,000, build an ADU in the back, and that might cost me another 200,000. I'm 400,000 in, but it's gonna be well worth over 700,000 easy. So if we get into them positions where we can come together and do something as simple as that. Now you just created $200,000 worth of equity, and we don't be too crazy. Even if your process is you just want buy a house for you and your family to live in, you know, we can come together. You can come together and now you got 3 units. Everybody can get their own unit and own something. But you know, I come across people that even what they get grandma house. Damn, I don't want this regular house. And for the life of me, I can't understand why your grandma house, bro, you gonna spend $2,000 a month renting somewhere. That's 24,000 in 4 years. You almost got 100 grand that you can put in the grandma house and make it brand new.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Everybody wanted this dude. Everybody don't floss it. I guess I don't know. Everybody want to act like they got it and look like they got it. My house was paid for. I ain't have no new car, old car, and my money. I'm like, I need my money to do something more than just look like I got something. Right. You know what I mean? I guess that's just like me. Yeah, have something. Because realistically, people know if you got it anyway. You ain't got to. You ain't got to floss. That's right. They know how you live. They see how you living. But I'm just saying to the black folks, man, we need to come together. We can put some money together, put the credit together, and buy something. We got to start owning our own neighborhoods. We got to start owning our own communities. And that's where I see it going. To do something bigger, get beyond the house. I don't want to do a house. I want to do some community. These folks doing community. These folks doing, you know what I mean, apartment complex. But it's gonna take us. It's gonna take us getting together to make it happen.
Yep.
That's it. I don't know.
That's right.
That's it.
You answered it.
Yeah.
About to say time, but you. But yeah, that goes back to, like you say, how you use your money to make money, and flossing for the younger generation.
Capping.
Yeah, to me, and I this is always my response to this term. When people say fake it till you make it. In my opinion, if you keep on faking, you ain't gonna never make it.
Yeah.
You know, so get rid of that.
I can't stand that term.
Every time I
Be
hear
prepared.
somebody say that, I say, how long you gonna keep faking? Because you still ain't made it, but you still faking. So that should tell you, if you keep on faking, you ain't gonna never make it.
Yeah.
So stop faking, stop flossing. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. You
Yeah.
know? So now to roll into what Corey just said about the 200,000 windows, this question is for you as the banker. Can you discuss some various financing options available for real estate investments and any tips for securing funding?
So, y'all, there's a lot of money out there. There's a ton of money. There's a ton of money out there. You have to do your research. I always say trust but verify. My child said he going somewhere. I believe, but I'm a check, right? So there's so many funding avenues, and we bypass banks because as African Americans and real estate agents, we always go to brokers because they think, well, the deal's gonna be tough, they can get it done. But every bank has what's called CRA requirements, Community Investment Act, right? They have to lend in certain aspects because I live in Atlanta, so everybody Buckhead's the rich area, right? And then we got Bankhead, which was not the rich area. If you're lending in Buckhead so much and you're not lending in Bankhead, the bank can get in trouble, right? And they can go under what's called a consent order. When you're under consent order, you can't do nothing. You can't grow. You can only collect so much deposit. You can't open up new branches. So that forces the bank to have to lend on the other side of the track, right? And most people don't realize most banks are at a 680, 620 credit score, right? But they just want to require that you have, you got the 5 pieces of paper, basically, to qualify. They can't deny you. If you got denied here and got approved there, there's an issue because you qualify. Now certain banks may have other guidelines that overlays what they're called. They're called overlays that they put on you for financing, just for risk-based purposes. But there's so many different down payment assistance. Most counties have them, most cities have them, right? And most banks have them. So if you're looking for funding, and I'm going to speak in Atlanta because I'm there. Atlanta is, and I'm also here in Florida as well, guys. So I know I'm not as familiar with all the down payments that are here in Florida, but I guarantee you most cities and counties have a program, right? On top of what else the bank is offering. So for example, in Atlanta, we have a $10,000 grant. On top of, if you go to Invest Atlanta, they got $22,000, right? So you get $32,000 for a down payment on a house right off the bat, right? And like he was talking about earlier, you buy one side, you let the income from the other side help you buy that side, right? And then you got some positive cash flow coming in. You can also look on HUD's website, HUD.gov. You go to homes. They got homes for $100 down, $100. Now you do have to have 6 months reserves. That's your 401k or whatever. You can get that. That's not a hard thing to do, right? But when you're looking at different financial mechanisms for investors, right? We can partner. That's one thing. We can leverage other properties, or you can actually leverage money that you have in other properties with a line of credit. So let's say I have a property right now that has over $300,000 in it. If I wanted to, I can pull out 150 and go buy another house. I can refinance that house, do it like Corey said, do it again. So if I'm looking to invest in an apartment complex, I may need a partner. There's hedge funds, there's all kind of money out there if you go and do your research and you have a plan. Our problem is we want to borrow money from Corey, but don't have a plan to present to Corey. We want to borrow the money. So you come to the bank and you want to borrow money, but you don't have a plan for it. You don't have a plan, a budget on how you're going to be able to afford this. So
Get back to you when I get my taxes, man.
yeah, that's what most people say when I get my taxes. But if I go to Corey and I say, Corey, I want to make this investment, I'm going to Corey. I'm not faking it till I make it. I hate that word. One of my managers used to say it all the time, just fake it till you make it. No, bro, just be prepared. I can't fake it because if somebody realizes I'm faking it, I'm done. I don't get a second chance.
Yeah.
But you talk about a barrier, go try to fake it and go in there and fake it and see what happens to you on the interview. You got to know what you're talking about. So be prepared. So I would go to Corey with a plan to say, hey, Corey, I found these properties. This is the investment I'm looking for. This is the return on the investment. This is how long we're going to hold it for. And then he'll consider partner. So there's all kind of avenues and mechanisms, sometimes in our own family. Some Sandman, come and get me. Sometimes in our own family, we have uncle and aunt who will invest with us if we show them a plan. Just stop talking about it. Put it on paper and show people that you've done your research and you have a plan. When you go to the bank for financing, have a plan. When you talk to that loan officer, first of all, I'm going to hand the mic. Don't worry about the loan officer. I'm not a loan officer, but if it's a loan officer, don't worry about the loan officer. It's the underwriter. Ask them, what's your guidelines? Can you show me your guidelines in writing? Once they give them to you, you meet those guidelines and bring it to them back. Forget the loan officer. He just want the commission. He the middleman. You gotta figure out what those qualifications are, and you can Google that now, y'all. It's all available.
There you go. Good information. Okay, hold on. If anyone in this room would like to speak with an attorney one-on-one for free today, now would be the time to just slide out because they have some open space. I just want to make that announcement so anyone wouldn't miss that opportunity. Yes, Ray.
Are banks allowing mortgage assumptions today?
Some banks are. So he's asking for a mortgage assumption. So what that'll mean is, let's say Corey no longer want this house, right? For whatever reasons, and his rate is 4%. I can qualify for Corey's house under his terms, right? And qualify for that home under what's called an assumption. Yeah. Most VA loans allow for assumptions. Some do, some don't. The challenge is a lot of people don't qualify for the assumption. That's it. But banks do offer assumptions.
I mean, right now though, we just bound. We just gonna buy it. You own the house, you got a 4% interest. I'm just gonna buy your rights from you and continue to pay your mortgage. Yeah, keep everything. Yeah, I own the house. My name, your name's still on the mortgage, but my name on the deed.
Yeah, you done a deed on
it. Yeah, keep it running.
Yeah, there you go. Ray, make sure you follow up with these young men for the podcast. For real, Ray. Okay, Les, I want you to give us some advice for the next generation. What advice would you give to young black men considering it don't have to necessarily be young black men? Let's just say to newcomers that are African American coming into this career as a real estate investor. Just give us some advice you would give them.
The advice I would give to us, people of color, just coming in, just piggybacking off what I said before, just trying to own something. These guys are really, really good with the loans and things like that. But with me, I own all my properties free and clear, and I never got a loan from the bank. I started in Indiana. and I would, like I told you, the strategy that I was working, and I just started buying them from the auctions and getting them at discount prices. And because I had friends who had 10, 15 properties, but then there was a recession in 2008 and they lost everything. And so, they had really nice houses in different areas and things like that, but they were leveraged. They were owned by the banks. And so when the bank collapsed, they lost everything. And so with me, I was buying a lot of raggedy houses. A lot of guys saying, "Why are you buying those raggedy houses?" And I'm like, well, it's mine. And then 10 years later, that raggedy house that was worth 20,000 was worth 150, 200,000.
Yeah.
And then he came back and was like, "Hey, how did you do that? How did you know?" It's like, well, owning something. That's why I keep saying if you own something, it's hard for them to take it from you. Of course, you have to pay the taxes and insurance, but if you own it, um, because you hear people say, "I used to have this car. I used to have this. I used to have." What do you own? So getting to the point where you can actually own something. I'm saying that now because I'm getting older and I'm ready to retire, and I really don't want to work that hard. And so it's like if you own something, then you can like rent it out, or you can, you can refinance it. And now you're dealing with the banks again, which is fine. It depends on the strategy that you want. But with me, going forward, if we own something, like even in they said bringing the neighborhood back, they're like everybody wants to move out of the hood, go over to New Tampa, go over to Riverview, move out of the hood. But then it's funny that we want to move out of the hood, but then all the white folks coming in.
East Tampa.
Yeah.
And then you notice they coming into all the businesses and stuff like that are owned by them. It's like, wait a minute. So the Chinese restaurant, we got the Arabs on in this, but this is the hood.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we want to move out, but they see all the money that's here.
Yeah.
We have the money. We have the money. We just have to put it into play for us. And so my thing going forward is ownership.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Good job.
Yes, sir.
Good job.
Yeah. Good advice. Great advice. The own self.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ike, we're gonna close it out with you. Great panel. Love these guys. They all did great.
Being scared of investing in the hood. I've never been scared. I bought in Newark. before people are like, oh my God, Newark. Or in Southside Chicago. I buy in Southside St. Pete. All those places, everywhere I purchased has seen 100, 200%, property appreciation in the times I held the properties, just because people, once they realize an area's prime development, they get in early. So because we're going to be the ones that are going to be displaced at the end of the day, who's in South St. Pete? It's us. But when the big developers come in and start buying up every, piece of land, we don't want to be like, oh my God, gentrification, because they can kick out renters, but they can't kick out owners. Because when you own, and those developers want to come in, you own Big Mama's house,
They gotta buy you out.
they have to buy you out. So the trend's now set, the word is out, and I love spreading information as much as possible. Own in South St. Pete. Own. Because they have to buy you out. They can't just kick you out. So the trends here, South St. Pete is definitely hot. In the next couple of years, you'll start seeing a lot more development come to the area. But because of brevity, I'll keep it short. But if you know someone who's thinking of selling in South St. Pete, tell them to reconsider it and talk to more seasoned brothers here that can give you some information on what's going on in the area, because sooner or later this will be the new downtown. Okay.
And when the property is low, that's when you want to buy it.
That's when
If
you
it's
wanna buy it.
dilapidated, it can't do nothing but go up.
Yeah.
You don't want to buy it when it's already here. Buy it when it's down.
Right, and to piggyback off of what I said it's 100% true. I'm now the president of Neighborhood Home Solutions. We are a HUD certified work. We're certified through the HUD department, and what we do is housing counseling to help new people buy homes. Right, we counsel them in home buyer education and financial fitness, and all of our information is outside of intent. And I said that to say, when I said the South St. Pete, our city government, the mayor, they have a program with the city for first-time home buyers, and they give the most money.
They got money
up to 75,000 if you're buying in South St. Pete, which is our CRA boundary. Most of our CRA covers South St. Pete. So the city, the local municipality, they're giving you up to 75,000 if you are a first-time home buyer to purchase a home.
Down payment?
For down payment.
Yeah.
Only in South St. Pete.
Taxes is out front, bro.
So that lets you know that South St. Pete.
Oh, I was gonna ask, can you use your VA loan to buy a multiple dwelling property that you don't live in? That's not
So
primary.
you don't want to ever tell me you're not gonna live in.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's your first.
As an agent, yes. To maximize, if you want, you can buy a multifamily unit up to four units. It's up to 4, but it has to be your primary residence for the first 12 months.
But if the first
12
Anything
months.
over 12 units.
Up to 4 is anything over 4 is considered commercial. Under 4 is residential. You can get an FHA or a VA loan to purchase a multifamily property up to 4 units, but it has to be your primary residence for the first 12 months.
So if you have a house already, you should just lease that out maybe. And then
You have a VA loan right now?
my house is paid for it, but I can still, I'm a veteran, so
So you can have you restored your eligibility?
yes.
Oh, you good.
Yeah, you want to talk full.
Stop talking.
Yeah.
Once
I heard you good. So once again, guys, great panel, H2O Pro, H2 Pro, Black-owned business, water. Please invest. Find him out, seek him out, find out where he is and what he does.
We'll be here.
Did a big sponsorship for this event today. Good job, guys. Are there any questions for the panel? Can you make an announcement?
Yeah.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Question.
The first time ownership, can you own a house and then have some
3
time,
years.
3 years, and then you again a first time?
After 3 years, you're considered a first time home. Yeah.
Shit, can I get one in my name?
You good?
If you own a house and it's still in your name, then no.
So the other thing is,
but if you own a house and let's just say you sold it or something else happened, then 3 years down the line, you are now considered.
so be careful putting your house in your child's name. First of all, he needs to be an adult before you put his name. But be careful because when you put the house in your kid's name at 18, 19 years old, he's now no longer a first-time home buyer because he owns a property. So then the underwriter has to make a common sense decision to say he don't really own this property, just put him on title, right? But when he comes to qualify for a mortgage, even if he's on title, he's responsible for the taxes and the insurance that goes against him. So be careful. That's why you want to look at a trust.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, yes.
Years ago, I tried to buy a book for the shop for $100 half base, and you can't do that. I don't know where he got.
Pull him to the side.
At HUD.gov,
Yeah.
You click on the house and it says qualify for $100. It's $100. It's a program. I bought my first house doing it.
Yeah. He talking a different program because right now, if you go through a foreclosure, they want the whole amount.
Not a
due.
foreclosure.
Yeah.
A HUD-owned property that's been foreclosed on. HUD has taken the property back and listed it for sale. And HUD will list it for sale for home buyers first before they list it for sale for investors.
Appreciate y'all for the knowledge. Real quick, I just want to say my name is Marquise Dancel.
So I'm trying to get him in the camera. We couldn't see him.
Real quick, yeah, my name is Marquise Dancel. I'm representing Celebrating Not Tolerated. We are a nonprofit organization that celebrates Black men. And on April 26th, it's a Saturday, we're hosting an event. It's going to be similar to this. We'll have a lot of resources specific to Black men and mental health. And so if you're interested in attending that event, we'd love for you all to come out. Again, it is catered toward Black men, but it is open to everybody. So we'd like to see everybody there. But again, we are Celebrating Not Tolerated, so I hope to see y'all April 26th.
Yeah. Exactly what y'all, Mr. Keys?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Great event. Great event. Any more questions? I know we have food set up. I think we have another panel. Paul, don't we have one? Okay, lunch first, and then we'll come back in here for another panel discussion. Give these gentlemen a round of applause, please. You have any questions for them? I got a deep. Get in their ear a little bit. You guys enjoy the rest of the day.
I got to
Heard from you. Panel guys, please go to the backdrop so we can get a group photo, please. If you're on this panel. Good job, man. Good job.